Do you think that engaging with this misogyny in this way, like using it in this way for debates to pull people over, do you think that that's like worth like kind of separating yourself from other people on the left? Even if, you agree on typically every single topic, it's just a matter of the usage of this.
I do, and it really sucks that I have to make that trade-off because I feel like it's pretty obvious in other places where that trade-off is being made and respected. Like a good example would be ContraPoints, or a lot, let's be real, a lot of trans women content creators who will make a lot of self-deprecating, transphobic, and sexist jokes. I mean, especially since self-directed sexism from a trans woman is a kind of gender affirmation. Like if a trans woman says like, "Oh, well, I've been more lightheaded lately, bimbo," like which they do constantly, of course, because it's an affirmation of a kind. But that's often seen as they're right because they're trans and a woman, and therefore they have the ability to make those kinds of jokes. I don't know how well that works when you're ContraPoints and have an audience of millions of non-trans people, though. And also, a lot of these jokes have a broader scattershot, right? But they're accepted because it's understood that there's a kind of value in engaging with, I guess, the problematic discourse, the behaviors. It makes you look less uptight. A lot of Contra's videos, her video on cringe or on men, those both dally in humor that would get me in trouble, not just because I'm a cis guy and, she's not, but like the logic of the humor. I feel like often a lot less charitability is given to me because of how people on the left perceive me. Like maybe if I was sort of unambiguously viewed as progressive, they wouldn't see stuff that from other people they would be like, oh, okay, well, obviously that's just them being edgy. That's fine. They're still progressive. Their community's progressive. But with me, they kind of like clutch their pearls a bit, like, oh, maybe this is reactionary or their community is more vulnerable to that kind of rhetoric. I see that one a lot, for example, like you have to be more responsible because of your community. Well, I've seen my community and they're ridiculously progressive and frankly sensitive in a lot of ways that I'm not. So maybe it's just like a fear people have. It's like they perceive a greater like threat or ambiguity from me, which means that it comes across as worse when I do that sort of stuff. I don't know. It is a trade-off though. I do wish that people would be a bit more sympathetic, at least to the intentions. Though I'm afraid that with time, this is all going to be like less relevant, I think, because we're kind of leaving the debate era, at least as I understood it when I started doing YouTube stuff. Like stuff is getting, it's advancing, you know what I mean? In terms of like how these views are being presented and what the best ways are to counter them. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see how it all plays out. There might be less and less room for like tactical edginess as well because we're entering a sort of a less charitable world. I guess I'll have to see how I play that.
Kind of unfortunate. We like debates.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like debates too. I'll always do debates, don't get me wrong. It's just like it's that anti-empiricist thing, right? What do you do if you're debating someone like James Wood? What do you do if you're debating somebody like Michael Tracy or anybody like that? People who are so far over that they can't even be talked to. They live in a different world. Debates aren't really the best way of getting through to that because there's this dream a lot of people have of Rick Sanchezing their way through every debate. Like, if you're logical enough, you can find these incisive hits that'll reveal how dumb they are. But it doesn't really matter to their audience because the audience is dumb in the same ways. And a lot of people can just filibuster or bide for time until your 2 hours up and you've actually not really discussed anything. Yeah, I don't know. At this point, you two are being my therapists. This is an environment I have to deal with. I totally get where you two are coming from. I don't fault you in any way for feeling that way. I'm always looking for or thinking of ways to do the same basic things, but in a less controversial way. Because I swear to God, for all the stuff I get in trouble for saying, I'm thinking stuff 10 times worse. It's not always easy to sort of on the spot roll through and find the least clippable way of getting an idea across, especially when you sort of edgy by tendency, but there's always room for improvement.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with it just because I have seen people in these communities kind of hop onto misogyny as like, a funny haha, and I don't know if that's your fault. I wouldn't really like blame you. I think that in part it is the responsibility of people to try to understand and to kind of dissect the usages of these things and like the context, of course, always. It is also really sad because like I've seen you go through these controversies and it does make me sad because I've seen your stuff. I'm like, I know the context. Like, Vaush is cool. He's all right. It's frustrating because it's hard to explain this to other people too. Like especially because it kind of does like break people away. But that's also like a general problem on the left is just like very niche topics getting in the way of things.
No, well, it's true, of course. We have very little room to argue with each other these days as well. Like I firmly believe that like jolts to intuitive disgust and fear are the best way of moving over people on the far right. You got to jostle them. You got to give them a tummy ache. You know, in terms of the best way to do that. I mean, you're right in that there's kind of like a spectrum of acceptability. The soy boy stuff is probably not cancelable because I've seen even H-Bomber guy will make jokes like that at the expense of like Paul Joseph Watson.
Didn't he start those because a lot of his like early stuff was just picking on a specific Nazi guy who looks weird and just making fun of him for looking weird,
which is itself problematic. But this is, you know, we live in the world we live in, obviously. How nice it would be if we could solve all political disputes without ever dirtying our hands. I personally take great delight in calling far-right people ugly. I think it's a joy. You know, I think it's politically necessary. I'll defend that. It fully is, especially since their politics are literally based on like a eugenicist perspective, where there's a natural genetic beauty to being politically correct. Like you can throw wrenches in that shit all the time, just by being mean. And being mean online is very important. It's critical. But no, I agree. You know, it's important to find a way to balance those concerns appropriately. If you could, you know, soy boy, you can go for, you know, probably the woman stuff is tetchy. You're right, dropping the hard R, a little more tetchy, I think. There'd be some people who would be mad at me for that one. There's probably like an ideal on that spectrum, but somebody's going to be unhappy with me, like no matter where I am on that spectrum. So there's no appeasing everyone.
I was gonna say I'm not saying anything contradictory to you saying, oh, you know, right-leaning people are ugly. I couldn't react in any better way. I just thought it was really funny the way you said it.
Oh, well, I mean, being evil makes your face look all weird anyway. So it you know, that's
British.
Yeah, there's like a ghoulish thing going on, but you know, it's like kicking people down a bit too. Like for instance, I don't really make fun of people for being fat that much, you know? You know, I've been fat myself, not that I really care. You know, people call me fat anyway.
At the end of the day, and I really hope you internalize this, you got blown the fuck out. And it's not because your points are bad. It's because your points are bad and you're stupid.
You're fat.
It just seems kind of juvenile, but I think you can make fun of someone for being fat if they're doing that kind of like white superiority bullshit. You know, like those white guys who are like, we're the master race and they look like a thumb on top of a like sort of a greasy potato. You know, in that case, all of a sudden, you know, your real criticism isn't just being fat. It's like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? You specifically. I think that's a bit more acceptable. It's still problematic, but you know.
I was gonna say, so the last time I talked, I remember,
Oh, right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm scared by that reaction, by the way. But I think that we understand at least what I'm talking about. Like the last time I talked, my friends were telling me something about the stream that like kind of made me a little I'm words leave me. I don't know how to describe it, but I heard that like, you know, people were being weird in chat and it's because I was a woman and I remember specifically like not one but like a couple of my friends were like, you turned off chat when I came on, and I don't blame you. I'm sure that it was off of like the best of your like intentions. I really don't, but I think that that's what I was gonna mention when it came to like misogyny on the left, because like maybe even in implicit ways, like people kind of welcome this misogyny and
Well,
and I don't want to like
I want to be
yeah.
clear real quick. I want to be clear. The problem with chat wasn't them being misogynistic. The problem with chat was them being thirsty, with respect. Now, you know, you got a 50-50 split of people being ooh woo girl and the other people being like, shut up about ooh girl, which made the chat intolerable. Of course, this is still informed by misogyny. I just want to make it clear, specify the exact behavior we're talking about. There's a lot of dumbasses in chat, and I hear there's a pretty strong overlap between watching live streamers on their off-site dedicated community chat and being virgins. So, bit of a community disposition there. But I gave them shit for that after too.
You gotta say, YouTube chat was way worse though.
Okay, well, YouTube chat's pretty bad too. You know,
I don't think you can control that. So, like,
I need a wallpaper of like hot bikini models behind me at all times, like cycling through, so that they're sort of like inundated, and they become vaccinated against like chicks, and you know, they stop freaking out when they see one. That's the goal.
that was a lot to process. I don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah, it's a strategy. It's actually anti-sexist. Have like the bikini swimsuit model collage behind you at all times with a green screen on the cam.
You just need to add the bot that, like, when you know those bots on Discord where you can just like type in cat or anime girl and it pops in. That you should add that to VGG.
Yeah, or I could just be a VTuber cat girl myself. Anyway, yeah, no, it's pretty embarrassing of chat. I don't think it comes from the same kind of place that you would get like the haha women are dumb kind of behavior from. I think if anything, it's just more like embarrassing, like adolescent simping. But yeah, no, it's still an issue. Yeah, gotta bring the hammer down.
I feel bad for you because, again, this is something that you have to deal with, and like I do want like better, you know, community like stuff for you, something at least a little bit more manageable. That's pretty much it. Also, about what the both of you were you know, proposing, modern problems, sure. Fucking, I guess.
Yeah, modern solutions, you know, the majesty of technology. Yeah, no, it's cool. I feel that they're kind of acting like, I don't know, it's like the cartoon trope where like a chick shows up and all the guys do the eyeballs awooga thing. It's, you know, very, very cartoony behavior, very, very silly stuff. But I can hit them with the hammer harder next time and see if they don't shut the fuck up. I think they were fine this time. That's a step forward. I hope they all feel very bad for getting me in trouble here.
You're not in trouble. I'm so sorry.
Why would you be?
I was also going to say,
chat's always in the wrong. All right. You all happy? You got called out. Are we getting scolded? You got scolded last time. That was very fair on her part. The people who are guilty are guilty. I have nothing to do with it. All right, all right.